Welcome to the LowCarb USA podcast, where we seek to inspire you to help us build this community. I'm Doug Reynolds.
And this is Pam Devine.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Mojo, it's so cool to have you guys on. I've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Hey, good to be here.
So cool
Yeah.
to be here.
So I did something with Dorian on YouTube at one of our events way back in West Palm Beach. But so much has happened since then that I've been aching to talk to you guys, get you on to talk about. And there's a couple of things now. You've had this whole idea of this nonprofit that's really exciting, that's now just got registered, right? The 501c3 has just been registered.
Yeah.
And an expansion into Europe and stuff. So I think let's start with the nonprofit. Talk about what your ideas are about that and where you see this going, because I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we've been, we attend so many conferences and we hear all the science and it's so exhilarating, but, clinicians, doctors come to us all the time and say, I can't get funding for my trials. I can't get funding for my research. And the research is there, the science is there, but it's about getting it out there. So we thought, you know what? We don't have kids. Why don't we make this our project to start a foundation that can raise money for clinical trials, for research, to get the efficacy out there so people can see that this is a thriving way of life. Eric Westman has said if it was a drug, it would have been approved by the FDA years ago. So how do we get that going? So we were, and if anyone tells you, just start a foundation, give some money to science, we thought, how easy could that be? Oh my good God, the amount of effort we've had to put in, and make sure it's legal and make sure that everything is right. And it's taken about 1.5 years of forms and bureaucracy and making sure that everything's filled out. But just last week, we got word that we were approved for the 501c3 status. So we are a bona fide nonprofit. It's called the Ketogenic Foundation, funny enough. And we're really excited. I think this is going to be our legacy. Our future is to raise funds to get the science out there.
So, it's relatively easy actually to set up a California nonprofit. But to set up a charity, a federally mandated charity, becomes a little difficult.
To give away money isn't so easy.
Yeah. Our goal on this is to actually just be more than just use just the profits of Keto Mojo to fund it. We've got a bigger scheme that is actually in mind, and we needed to have full charity status in which to do that. So, as Gemma and I are technically what's known as an interested party, we have a full board that is in place to ensure that we meet to the stringent standards. So, I imagine a world, I go to a lot of your events, Doug and Pam, and, I see a lot of food vendors there. I see a lot of other products that are being presented, and I see a lot of people making money. Yet where are they giving back? So, part of us having the ability to have this full charity status is, what if I could go to Perfect Keto and say 1% for science? And maybe we could have a little badge on that bar, or the same thing with Dry Farm Wines or like that. And what if every single company that was involved in the keto space gave back to the scientists and funded the clinical trials and studies? Because every single one of them stands on their shoulders. We all talk about the efficacy of a ketogenic diet and what a well-regulated ketogenic diet is and how it can create profound change. Yet we all need to start giving back. And that's the kind of like the longer term vision, is getting the whole of our community to come together under a banner. And then what we do is, Gemma and I have done the heavy lifting of getting the board set up. But then from there, what we want to eventually do is get a halo board, as we like to call it. Like, get some of these luminaries that speak on your stage. And maybe then, if we can get the luminaries who understand what is going on in the science, we could then ultimately get them to say, hey, what could potentially move the bar the easiest? How do we set the foundation stones in that we can build up? Is it a short trial for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that might only be 30 days to show that you can reverse those effects quite quickly? Is it a polycystic ovarian syndrome trial that could actually then lift it up? And so these are the questions that is what intrigues us.
Well, and I think, you know, we were just in Boca Raton with you all for Low Carb Boca Raton, and when you go to these conferences, you get so excited and there's so much energy, and the message is, how do we get it out there? How do we make a change? How do we bring it to the forefront? And I think this might be a way to do it, but we all have to get behind it. And I think this, the community, the ketogenic community is so strong and so special. The people we talk to, the people we connect with, you guys are so inspiring that it can lead the way, it can lead the charge.
Right.
And
I'd kind of like want to put out here, we're not just saying, hey, we've set up a charity. We set up a charity and we funded it with over $500,000 to start off with. This is not just like, hey, it's a tiny charity. It's like, guys, we are really going to try and create
It's like for real, yeah.
yeah, for real.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's over $500,000, and our goal right now is we're thinking about maybe an 80-20. We haven't solidified it down because it hasn't been ratified by the board. So we're thinking of maybe an 80-20 strategy, that 80% gets placed into an endowment and then 20% gets spent every year. So the goal is that as over a period of time, we raise up this endowment, and then we would have something that can fund science in perpetuity. That is more important. You know, you don't want to kill the golden goose if it's to that extent.
Yeah.
And that's looking to try and achieve with the Ketogenic Foundation. So I think that's going to be one of our most pleasing things to have come out of it in the last couple of years, actually.
Yeah, it's really, you know, it's like whenever we hear about someone that we've inspired that's gone on to do great things and stuff, it chokes me up, you know.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I think it's this. Oh, you've never seen that, right? But I can see that the same for you. Like you're getting so much more out of your eyes start sparkling when you talk about this, because it's like the potential that of the benefit and the good that can be done through this is just unfathomable.
Yeah.
And just that thought of that, like I can see your brain spinning and your eyes sparkle when you talk about it, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do is really make a difference, you know.
Yeah. And that's what feeds us. If someone comes up to us and says, you know, you gave a meter to my child and he's doing great, or, you know, it's all I need to be just like, oh my God, you know, we do get inspired. I mean, listening to you guys speak and the passion for what you've done and how much you've accomplished is amazing. And that's what feeds us, and being able to make a difference. It's worth everything, actually.
If you look at the forces that are potentially aligned against the ketogenic community, you know, this is the real. You know, we face some big headwinds, and these headwinds are going to be coming in the form of big agricultural, big pharma, and you know, the only way that you're going to potentially to hold something in this sort of like David and Goliath area is if you are armed with the right, and what I mean by that is having good science. If you are armed with the ability to give good education, the work that you guys did in being able to produce the standard of care is immeasurable. You know, we go out to some of these other groups and they're only just about thinking about what their standard of care is. And we go like, well, have you seen this is being written down in, are you 8 languages or 6 languages right
So
now?
I think it's 6 languages now, and a few more to come, and hopefully shortly.
You know, six languages. Look, it's already there, guys. You can take this foundation stone, and these are the between our community, these different foundation stones is what's the most important piece that can assist other people and doctors and clinicians, and because they all seem to be in these little silos, and how do we actually bring all of them together under a community,
Top down, bottom up, and
as
meet in the middle.
As Miriam said,
Miriam said that before, and it's
So then I also hear, like literally a couple of days ago, that your foray into Europe has
Yes.
It's come about now. So
yeah, we've been heavily pregnant for a very long time. And pregnancy lasted a lot longer than what we really wanted to. Like, we were supposed to be in Europe by September and October of last year. But it didn't quite happen at the speed that we have wanted, but it's a brand new, this is a little bit puppy here. It's our next generation meter. I don't know if you kind of see that.
Yeah, no, it's a,
And it's the world's first meter that has GKI built in. And we think that the glucose ketone index will prove to be a really great tool, not only in the world of cancer, but in other areas as more studies coming out. But, we took a lot of the lessons of our existing meter and completely redesigned the entire thing and added in some really great functions, such as it has this high-speed sipping technology on the strips, so the blood actually travels up nearly 30% faster.
Which really, you can't. It's really hard to get a fill error because it's just like
on that one there. It is auto coding, so we've managed to get rid of the code keys that we had in our old meter. It actually has a light, so people with glaucoma or in low light situations can actually see what they're doing to it. It's 8 sensors. It actually senses temperature and to take that into account, as well as hematocrit, to get a better quality of measure. It has Bluetooth built in as standard, and we actually send it out with controls. And the control solutions, that's almost a $20 value just in itself, and that is all free of charge. That is included in the actual meter kit. So we've really tried to say, there's no reason not to test. We enhanced the lancing device as well, so that we've got a better way that the shaft works on that piece. So we're really super excited with the product.
So, but now this is only available in Europe, or are we going to be able to get it in the States as well?
We have Project Pathfinder.
Dorian has project names for
I love code names. I could Project Velvet Road, Project Pathfinder, Project Carb USA. They all have, you got to kind of galvanize around the standard. And with Project Pathfinder, we set the team a goal that, irrespective of the market size and whether or not it does or does not make financial sense, we will try to go to every country on the globe, irrespective of whether or not it makes money. When you take a look at the obesity rates in East Timor, this tiny island, at nearly 80%.
Wow.
It's sickening and saddening all at the same time. But if we can use the tools of telemedicine to fundamentally make that difference, and if we can reduce the total cost of ownership, so we're going to use the scale and affluence of America and Europe combined, that on this new manufacturing platform that we're on, we believe that we will have a ramp down considerably in price over the next 2 years.
Working on it.
Always your goal.
That's constantly been your goal from the beginning. So
it is total cost of ownership. I mean, our meter, we're just training wheels in life. Most people only test for under a 90-day period. And what's happening, it's sort of like, why does the Army send their new recruits to boot camp? It's to change their habits and teach them a new way.
Right.
So we are the training wheels. During that 30 to 90 days, you learn your body, you learn your bio-individuality. And then if you test and you're in ketosis, and you're having that similar kind of breakfast, because we're all creatures of habit, Friday night, Gemma and I like to have our 2 sausages and cabbage with butter, and it's fantastic. And we know that doesn't kick us out of ketosis. We know on Tuesdays, we like to go and visit our local Indian restaurant, and we now know how to order off at the Indian restaurant meal and never get kicked on out. And so do we actually need to test?
Well, I do. But I mean, I test because of the wine factor. So I'm a sommelier. I drink wine. So I like to know, how's that wine going to affect us?
Just to say, she's a certified som. Not that she is a som. She's a certified som. She has her has some certification. And I'm gonna give props to my
Please do.
Gemma finished top of her class with the Walter Claw Scholarship, which 50% of every class fails. It's really, really hard. So
it was actually more challenging than Berkeley.
Go, Gemma.
I have to tell you.
Go, Gemma.
But let's not talk about that. But what my training has taught me is that we can choose lower alcohol wines that are less additives, wines that will not kick us out. And so I think that's a point that I want to bring up, is that people always say, oh, I can't do keto, that keto fad. Oh no, I want to drink wine. I want my pasta. I want my whatever. I have kids. But that's part of the drive for us, is that we came from a wine industry. So, it's not like we started as scientists, although I think you may have a little scientific bug in your head.
You wear a bow tie.
I'm right. Yes. But, we're normal people who have found this way of life that is amazing, and it works. And we're inspired every day by people we meet, like you guys and the speakers and the scientists. But the point is, it's such a wonderful, we live in the Napa Valley. We eat so well. We drink wine. We love food, and it's not challenging, and it's healthy. I've had breast cancer. I have an autoimmune. I was about 50 pounds overweight. And over the years, I'm now at a place where, I'd like to lose a little more weight, but I'm okay, and we're doing well. And that's part of the message. You have the science that backs us up. It's there. It's factual. And then you have the anecdotal stories, proof that this is a viable way to live. Our dogs have been keto longer than us, right? And we have a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're, their energy levels out the little too energetic, but
they are crazy.
But so that's part of the message too, is like the science, but also I'm all about balance. I'm not somebody who I've been dieting since I was 7 years old. I don't want to diet. I want a lifestyle that's healthy and is sustainable and works well, but it has to taste good. And
that tasting good is really an important part. I mean, when I came to America 22 years ago, I worked in restaurants in New York City. I was the director for operations for Sterling Affair Caterers. We did the Pulitzer Prize lunch and Horowitz Awards dinners. I've done presidents and kings and princes, as well as like 6,500 people at the New York Public Library. So for us, food has been with us for many, many years. We have a chef that we work with in San Francisco, and we create 15 new recipes every 6 weeks, and we put them out for free on our website. They're beautifully photographed as well. And for us, it's sort of like, look how engaging this is. Look how delicious. And you are not in any way going to feel like, whoa, I'm
right.
Bingo. In fact, you are actually enriched because of it.
Yeah.
I love it when I go and see her at a restaurant. In fact, Sue, on our team, her husband takes away every Valentine's Day. God, it makes me feel so bad. I got to be better at that stuff. And she went to a restaurant that had keto rellenos. It's keto Mexican in Tucson, and she was like, "Yeah, it's fantastic." And we have a local restaurant here that has keto eggs for brunch, and we go and support them because of that. And it becomes a lot easier now when you go to a restaurant where you go like, "Hey, I don't eat carbs," and they go like, "No problem, we can substitute that."
And I think that's part of it too. You're starting to see more like cauliflower rice or cauliflower pizza or things that are out there, and it takes getting that word out there. But not only for the food scene, but also lower income families, so they don't have to rely on junk food. They don't have to rely on less expensive food that's not good. It's important that we educate everyone so they can see you can do it easily, you can do it inexpensively, you can do it quickly. I mean, we're so busy now, we travel maybe 2 weeks out of every month. And so I used to love to cook and make these elaborate dinners, but now it's like, 2 sausages and sauerkraut. It's like, wow, we're really excited, but you can do it easily. You can do it much sooner. So
you certainly can. Like every Sunday afternoon, we do, they call it in South Africa a braai or a grill. And we do 2 steaks, ribeye on the bone, with the South African sausage, and we cut it up into slices, and that's meal prep for 3
And
days.
I've had that South African sausage. Is amazing.
Oh, unbelievable. You know, that's 3 days a week. So, you know, then we fill it in with a fish, a pork chop, a shrimp, or another steak, you know, whatever. So it's easy, right? It's easy.
Yeah, and it's fun. Yeah, right.
It's fun.
So yeah, so part of the goal is, you know, not only is it just, you know, we use the profits of the meter to try and educate and empower. And I just kind of want to say thank you to you two for entrusting us with all of the content that you have created with the Low Carb USA series.
So does everyone know that the entire series is on our website now for everyone?
I mean, everybody knows, everybody's listening to this, you know.
It's amazing. Over 200 hours of videos, 143 separate presentations.
It's a lot of content.
87 different presenters, and we're able to give that away for free.
And when you see it all together, I mean, it must make you guys so proud. It's like, oh my, I get all choked up because I'm like, look at this body of work that has been ongoing, continual, reach so many people, not only in person, but now we can, you know, reach people who can't afford to come to the conferences or can't physically come to the conferences. And so that is it gives me chills. It's just an important part of it.
To my mind, it's also like, you know, too many doctors have got God complexes. You know, like, don't confuse, there's that phrase, don't confuse your 2 minutes of Googling with my 6 years of medical school. And the parry to that is, well, don't you confuse the 10 or 15 years that I've lived with this with what you might have only spent 30 minutes on, which is nutritional training.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really important. But now what we can do is, you have so many PhDs and MDs that have spoken at such a high quality level. They're CME credited. And now you can say, well, look what this endocrinologist has said. Look what this cardiologist has said. Look at this nephrologist, what they've said. And you tell me what is wrong with what that is. Because I cannot speak at your level, but this person can. And here is the information for free. That I think is key, because then you can have, you know, it's that peer-to-peer conversation that could be done. Because if we can change one doctor, we change their entire patient population.
I think
and that to me is massive.
Part of the problem, if you've ever had an issue, if you've ever had a condition, like an autoimmune can be very hard to discover. And I remember at one point I was going to endocrinologists, my GP, I was going to everybody, allergists, whomever, and I started to get on more and more medication. And my pharmacist finally said, do you know how many things you're on? I said, yeah, all the doctors know, but it didn't matter, because they were trying to fix the problem.
Instead of finding the cause of the problem. Exactly.
And also working to sustainably and healthily, which I just invented that word, address the issues. So I think the frustration that we all face when we go to our doctors or our practitioners and they say, no, take this drug. But how about I work from the inside out and work to make myself, I mean, the people we're attracted to are the people who have the stories, who have been there, who have fought, who have worked. And that's what we're trying to promote is that.
Yeah, and we find that the physicians who are the most interested in learning, opening their minds of more innovative lifestyle treatments from the inside out have, on the majority, had a personal issue, a personal story.
Yeah.
And those people are going to continue to educate people so that those people don't have to reach that level of illness and sickness and disease and despair. And that's, I think, one of the most profound things that we're all, hi, honey. I heard you meowing.
I know. Otherwise she'd be meowing all over.
Yeah, pick her up and say, okay, be part of the conversation. But there are so many doctors who have had issues themselves who didn't learn this to treat themselves. We hear it every day. Their weight problems or illness. And if we can help avoid that to begin with, they learn at a medical school. There's so much initiatives with like Tony Martinez they can get into the Senate, make a difference, top down, as we're all making bottom up, to ensure that our health professionals don't have these
But it's
personal struggles. And
yeah, but it's amazing how many health professionals have been actually turned by their patients. When you hear Dr. Andreas Ansvelt, the diet doctor, speak, and he talks about how he had patients come on in that changed them, and he took that moment of going like, okay, let me take another. What's amazing is it Tracy, the new president
Tracy Brown,
of the ADA? She actually said for the first time, that was big. That was huge.
But I mean,
she's doing it for herself, and she's seeing results.
I as far as I know, you know, many of the people that were on the board and whatever of the ADA weren't ever diabetics. So, you know, you had people making policies in that weren't even diabetic. They didn't have that personal experience.
Right.
Whereas Tracy now is the head of them, and she is diabetic, and she's seen the benefits of reducing carbohydrates, and that's why things are changing there. You know, it's needed someone at the top to actually have the disease and see the improvements, and now suddenly something's going to happen there, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's a pivotal moment, because you know, one of the challenges that you're going to find is more people who are type 1s and type 2s who are choosing a low carb lifestyle. Is that I think the next challenge that our community has is de-prescribing. And it's a very powerful, you know, as
Brian Lansky speaks of that.
Yeah, you know, what you're going to happen is, because it works so effectively and so quickly, you know, a person needs to be able to be de-prescribed on their medications, and need to be done correctly and properly.
Mm.
But sometimes you can't get in to see your doctor in America.
Right.
So how do we do that? Now, I've heard of nonprofits in Canada, and what they're trying to do is that somebody can walk into their pharmacist, they can have their blood checked immediately, and they can be de-prescribed.
Right.
This will probably be the next advancement that we need to see as us as a community, that you can just walk on in, anything like you saying, okay, I'm going low carb, and go like, I need to be picky.
Yeah, because it's so difficult to find a doctor like Brian who is open to the conversation.
It's going to support you in your you know.
Or you get the likes of people creating the programs like Virta Health with Dr. Finney there, and Sami Inkanen and the work that they are doing, which I think is incredibly groundbreaking. And kudos to Sami for putting his money where his mouth was in funding all those clinical trials and studies, because that is not cheap. Not cheap.
No,
share all of that information with the world, which essentially, if you just look at what they have put out on their clinical trials, any doctor could pick up that mantle and start changing people's lives. So, you know, a big financial risk for them as a company, but also I think it's a great thing for the benefit of humankind.
Oh yeah, big time. So I wanted to chat to Gemma specifically a little bit about what it's like to be Mrs. Mojo. And we were talking about it before we got started, and you know, like Dorian came to the first few events that he came to of ours. You weren't there, and he always he would talk about his wife, and I wasn't convinced that he even had one.
I'm a figment of your imagination.
But then, yeah, I mean, I just wondered, but at that stage, you weren't really totally involved. Like now, you're completely immersed in this thing.
Right.
But back then, you
just want to say here, Gemma was my hardest employee to convince to come join the company. Literally, it took nearly 6-7 months.
Yeah. But I mean, imagine it, the conversation. Yeah, sweetie, yeah, I want to start a company that produces a medical device that pricks your finger so you can test your blood for ketones and glucose. I mean, that's the conversation, you know, kind of. It's like, yeah, sure, okay, let me just drop everything. And, you know, when you start a small business, as you guys know, it's like retirement, and how are we going to feed ourselves, and there's no money coming in.
You supported us for the first year.
Yeah, well, I sort of had to.
We didn't have enough of an income for an entire year.
And then you know, when we will always be so grateful to you guys, because we launched the company at Low Carb San Diego in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So that was before we had anything. Dorian was like so nervous to even, it's like here and, this is what I got. And then we launched the company. And then in October, we lost our house in the fires, and it was like, oh my God, come on. So it's been a real learning curve, I have to say. I mean, had we not lost the house, we probably wouldn't have been able to continue, because we were able to just use everything and throw it all in.
That's right. You took the insurance money from that, and instead of getting another house, you said, honey, we're not getting a new house because I need the money in the business.
I mean, we still don't have a house, but you start to learn what's important, and you start to prioritize.
Can you just imagine that conversation?
Yeah.
You just get like the insurance check, and you go and look to your partner, and you're going to go, like, I'm actually going to say this, but, hashtag no filter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you start to, by that time we understood. I mean, we didn't know if this was going to work in the beginning. I mean, we had the ideals, we had the passion, but you just didn't know. And we were lucky that, it took off. But,
but that's a double-edged sword, because of the long lead times in procurement of the product, we'd have to be over 4 months ahead. So we have to think of what the community is going to be doing in 4 months' time. And we have to fund every single meter and strip for the entire United States. That gets very, very expensive very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Growth can kill a company.
Yeah. And, we're up against big pharmaceutical companies, and it's Dorian and I, it's mom and pop, Mr. and Mrs. Now, I do want to say we did have a conversation about Ms. Mojo, because I really do just think Mrs. is too, but you know what? We're Mr. and Mrs. So feminists out there realize that it's about the partnership and the balance, and it's not all about Ms. But in my heart, I am a Ms. I just want you to know. But, you talked about what it's like to be with Dorian. We've been married 22 years and no kids, but fur babies. And it's if we've had an interview or a conversation with somebody, or Dorian has, and their eyes aren't bleeding, I'm like, oh my God, we made it through. Because usually, you know how he is. He's like, blah, 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 science and everything. And it keeps me going, because I hate the word passion because it's overused, but it's that vibrancy, it's that excitement, it's the knowledge that you're behind something that works. And I think that's what's kept us together, is that it's that common desire to promote something, to make, if we didn't have to sell a meter, I'd be thrilled, because I just want to get the information out there. I've always said we're more than a meter. It's about everything else. Mm-hmm. It's about getting the information out there, the science, the articles, the recipes, the how-tos, this is what it is. And to be able to do that means a lot. And for us together, that's our child. That's our excitement. And I know you guys know what it's like. It's that shared, this is what we get up in the morning to do.
But because
also a little bit of a sounding board as well,
Yeah, like I was just going to say that the idea that I wanted to bring this up in the first place was, it had happened a couple of times, but it happened again in Boca, where I came out to, like, when everyone was in one of the talks and was quiet there, and I came out to talk to you guys at the table at your booth, and Dorian he just went off, and he was like all these things ideas that he's got, and I just saw you like standing next to him, like, and it was like, goodness, what's it going to be like it's amazing that you have all of these ideas and you follow through with a lot of them.
Well, but people come to us all the time, and a doctor will say, what we really need is the blah 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 test, or we want the continuous glucose monitor, or can you do an insulin test? And Dorian takes each one of those, and we search it to see, is it viable? Can you do it? Does it make sense? And so I have to give it to him. I sometimes worry because he spins very fast, but just don't want little smoke coming out of his ears. But I get excited because we do try to see if we can make things happen. Sometimes it's just not viable. But sometimes down the road, we always work towards.
Well, almost anything is possible given time and money and physics, really. You can't break the laws of physics and to a certain extent chemistry. And when we listen to the doctors, where I'm always going like, how can we make their lives easier? How can we be the agents of change? And how can we have a market forcing function? When we first started and it was $4 a strip, it was like, well, that seems pretty simple. If we can bring game here and lower the cost, how can that get better outcomes? How can you clinically show that in a home remotely that the efficacy of this lifestyle? And so we've set ourselves a few lofty goals, and so far we've achieved them. Not all of them have been in the time frame that we would have wanted. So with not having as much funding as you want, some things go a little bit slower. You run on more of a tight team to be able to get it done. But we've got it done. We've got the foundation done. We managed to get Bluetooth built on into our meter for the same cost, when it used to be the Bluetooth adapter. When we first launched it was $25.
It was an add-on, yeah.
Yeah, it was an add-on. And then we got it down to $19. And then as we increased on the chipset, we were then able to include the chipset in the meter at no extra charge. This is how scale works.
Yeah.
So our challenge is now, since we've started, there are other incumbents that have come into the game that are selling, and sadly, what a lot of people don't know is there's a little loophole on FDA certification for just ketones only. If you've got ketone and glucose, you're in a different realm. And so we're actually seeing bovine meters now being sold on Amazon cheaply. And what happens is, as this starts to fracture the testing community, then you have less money in which you can invest on what is needed to open it up. That's why we're taking the brand international, because only with scale can we fundamentally lower the cost. But you have to use the wealth of one side and reinvest that in. Gemma and I have not taken a single penny out of the company since we started. We've reinvested absolutely everything.
Hence no house.
Hence no house.
Okay.
But
it's okay. I'm not complaining.
We're in a rental. That's all right.
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Overrated.
But that's the challenge. Sometimes people come up and say, why is ketone testing so expensive? Why don't you guys bring down the price? And I was like, oh my God, what do you think we're trying to do? We're trying so hard, and that's the continual effort, is to make it more affordable.
And that person usually asks that question when they got a latte in their hand from Starbucks for $4.95,
right?
And you're like going, and you think a buck of strips too expensive?
Yeah, no, it's
and
crazy.
I'm like, but I agree with them, actually. Because if we want to go to Indonesia or Pakistan or East Timor or these emerging nations,
or even within our own country,
the
poverty level is
we have to bring
some communities that just still can't afford it. Yeah.
Some of the Native American reservations, they're remote and they can't get the
they need it really badly there too.
Yeah.
So.
There's a couple of First Peoples who've approached us, and so we try to work through that. But change is coming. I see a pathway in the next 18 months, without a doubt.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You guys have did an absolutely wonderful partnership in doing some really great things, and it's been an honor and a privilege to get to know you guys and work with you in some respects as well. And
well, you two will always be so close to our hearts, because that's where we started, and we so believe in what you're doing and all the people that you reach, and the just getting out there. And so I think the synergy that's what we seek, is that type of mutual synergy where everybody's working for the same thing, has that same passion and vibrancy, and really that's how we will make a difference together. The community.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being with us and taking the time.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys.
Okay.
Have a great day. Bye.
You've been listening to an episode of the Low Carb USA podcast. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/LowCarbUSA.